So for this video, we're going to be building a virtual pet using the microbit. Now this is a nice little project, one because the kids really enjoy it, but two because there's a lot of good stuff in terms of the maths that's used and also how we use conditionals to decide what the face of the pet looks like at different times depending on how it's feeling. So we will begin this one, I think, straight on the computer and look at the program first. So we'll build the program, try it in the simulator before we then bring that together and actually construct something. So over to the computer, we're going to start a new project here. Call it virtual pet. Okay, so the way this pet is going to work is that it will have a smiley face. So this is actually going to be the face. The microbit screen is going to be its face, and it will show a smiley face if it's feeling happy. If it's feeling a bit put out, then it'll have like a sort of indifferent face, and if it's sad, we'll have a sad face, and maybe something else if it goes beyond that, if we don't feed it. So let's start with this one then. We're actually going to start with a variable. And we're going to call this variable health. So this represents the health of our virtual pet. So at the start of the program, we're going to set health to 10. So it's got a health of 10 at the start. Consider this a little like a video game, I guess, that a character would have so much health at the start, and then obviously things may decrease that along the way. Now, what we're going to say within here is that forever, let's put this in a, so let's pause for 10,000 milliseconds, that's 10 seconds, and then it's going to change health by -1. So every 10 seconds, it loses 1 from this value of health, which will then go down. What I would like, though, is I don't want health to go beyond 0. So I don't want it to keep going negative and counting down. So find 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, but I don't want it to start going -1, -2. I want the health to stop at 0. So actually what we're going to do here, we're going to put this inside a little bit of logic, which says if, and we'll use one of these, and we'll say if health is greater, if health is greater than 0, then it does this. Obviously the opposite of that being that it won't do that if health is less than 0 or equal to 0. So that's good for keeping us within a range. So it'll count down from 10 and go back up. Now, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to feed. Actually, no, let's, which way to do this? Now, let's show something on the screen at this point. I think this is a good time for this. So I could put it all in the same for efficiency's sake, but I'm going to put another forever loop here just so that it's easier to see. So what we're going to say in here, if health, oh, sorry, I want one of those. So if health is greater than, let's grab the variable. So if health is greater than, let's say 6, then it's going to display a happy face on the screen. Okay. So that's good. What we then want to say underneath that, let me just duplicate this whole block. So if the health is above 6, then our little creature is happy. If the health is less than or equal to 6, and so we're going to need a range here because we want it to be between 2 numbers for the next one. So what we're going to say is if the health, just move over a bit. So if health is less than or equal to 6 and it's greater than 3, then we're going to display this one. Okay, and then what we want to say is, next one, if health is less than or equal to 3 but greater than 0, then we want to show this one. And then finally, we're going to put one more, which just I'll copy this one because it's more similar to this one. We're going to say if health is equal to, we'll put equal to or less than, just in case it goes below 0, then it's dead. Okay, so to show this a little quicker, I'm going to change this number for a moment. This is how I want it to be in real life. I want it to be 10 seconds for one bit of health off. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to change to 1 second, just so we can see this range of faces go on and see if it works. So hopefully after about 4 seconds, yep, we should see it go to this. Then for another, oh, sad now, and dead. Okay, so that works great. Now, what we want to be able to do, though, is we want to be able to feed our virtual pet to give them some health. So to do this, we're going to try it on an input. So if we're going to connect a button. Rather, you could just do this using the microbit buttons, but we're going to do this using pin 1, so we're actually going to connect a button to it. So if pin 1 is pressed, then it's going to change health by 1, but I don't want people to be able to keep just spamming the button, so I'm going to put a pause of a second in there as well. Okay, so pin 1 is pressed, it's going to change the health by 1. Okay, I can actually test that on here. So I can just press on pin 1 here to test this out. Yep. Oh, I'm going to do a bit more feeding here. You see, we hit a problem, you see, because it's going down every 1 second, and I can only add on every 1 second, so it's kind of stuck in a bit of a loop. Let's change that then to half a second. Let's try that. Okay, it's gone back up. Actually, maybe it doesn't need that, because we're going to stop it from going over 10 anyway in a minute. So if pin 1 is pressed, and change health by 1. Now, we don't want it to go above 10 when you're feeding it. So I've got a couple of options here. I could put some logic in there that looks like this. So if health, you can only do this if health is less than 10. So that's probably the sensible way to do it. So maybe I can just copy this chunk and take out the bits I don't need. I want that bit though. All right, let's do it that way. So if health is less than 10, okay. Yes, that will work. Okay. Okay, I can take it over. I can keep pressing it, but it's not going to go beyond 10. Then it'll start coming down again. Yep, that works great. And it shouldn't be able to go below 0 because of this as well. Let's just test that. I'm just going to let it run for a little longer and just then add some health on and check that it doesn't take ages to bring back up the health. So in theory, if I press this, like, yep, that works great. Okay, so we've got a basic virtual pet now. So it has health that goes down. I can change the... Actually, I won't do this just yet because I want to add one more thing. So what I might want to do, though, is add a little bit of sound to this. So let's have a look. Let's find a... Okay, so now when it dies, it plays funeral music. This is getting very morbid. So we've got a problem now because it's looping. Okay, so that's not ideal for this. So it just keeps making that noise because health is less than or equal to 0. So we'd need to stop that from happening. So by putting this in a loop is not a sensible idea. Let's have a look. We could make a separate little piece of code, so it would need to trigger something else to happen to play that music. What we could do, let's have a look. It's going to go down. So maybe I'll not do that one for now. I think I don't want to add too much complexity to this program at the moment. But what we will do, let's have a feeding button. Feeding sound, sorry. Okay, far too long. Let's make it short. So it just gives a bit of feedback when it works, because if you try and keep doing it, it won't let you keep doing it. So we'll try that one. I might have a slightly higher. Try that. Yeah, so let's kind of leave it like that for now and start to put this into an actual project. So I will leave the code. Actually, no, let's change it to proper now before we put it onto the microbit. Okay, so let's connect up this one. Okay, we'll just pair the microbit. Okay, download it. Okay, so that's all set. So we've got our smiley face. It's going to take a little longer now to go down the other bit, but I'll just leave it there for now so you can see that. But what we're going to use to build our virtual pet, so we're going to use one of these arcade buttons, which is going to be our feeding button. I'm going to make it out of some card, I think. I'm going to use one of these little flat speakers just for the sound, so they'll work quite well for that. Yeah, and then just put it all on battery power as well. So I'm going to start making this. I may accelerate this little bit of video just as we start to put it all together. Okay, so that's the basics of the construction for this one. It's just going to be a button in the middle, some holes, and a little stand. Now, we're going to start then to add the microbit into here. Now, most people, sensible people anyway, would likely just put, if you're doing this for students, I would just use some masking tape over the back. What I would definitely not do is to glue gun your microbit to the board, as I'm doing. That would be a terrible idea. What we're going to do next is then just start to wiring this up. So what we had previously then, so we had the button was connected to pin 1 in the program. So let's try and do that one first. So I'm going to go pin 1 here to the button. I'll tidy away these wires shortly. and then from ground to the other side of the button. Now, what we tend to do with these, just to stop them shorting against each other, is we generally ask the kids just to put a blob of glue gun glue in the middle. A, it keeps them separate, and B, it does also help to hold them still, and it just tends to just pop off afterwards if we're taking a model apart. So next we're going to add a speaker. I think I'll try and add this behind the card. Hopefully it won't muffle it too much on there. And sound, if you watch the video we did on music, sound always comes out of pin 0. So we need to connect this one to pin 0 and then to ground. You can just clip the two together. And then we would put this just up here. So I'm going to be very careful and just put, you don't want to get any glue on the speaker itself. So I'm just going to put a tiny little bit in the corner. Okay. So that now seems solid. Okay, so we've got a lot of mess behind here, which we're going to tidy away. Okay, so what I've done here is to just change the life to just 1 second again as it counts down on the health. Just okay, so it goes all the way up, and you'll hopefully hear the sound through my microphone. I'll lift him up a little bit. So health's going down. Okay. That works great. And you could obviously expand upon this if you wanted to add anything else. At some point I'd probably start to use a breakout board because this is starting to look a little untidy on here. And then once you've got that connected, you could do all sorts of things like add lights for different stuff or multiple buttons to do different things. So as I say, it's a nice little project and one that the kids really enjoy doing. And quite straightforward, and it's really good for the understanding, I guess, on here of using conditionals to set up certain events to happen when certain conditions are met. And it's a good maths piece, really looking at sort of the algebra of variables and also signs of inequality as well when we're looking at setting these parameters for the different faces. So hopefully that's helpful and an interesting project that you might want to do something similar with your students.